Hi, it's Mike with AskTractorMike.com. I'm in my backyard and I hate the grass growing in my backyard. And I'm going to try to use my tractor to work up a big area back here and reseed my backyard. And let me tell you a little history about what happened back here. When we moved to this place, the folks before us had an event where it rained a bunch and their basement flooded. We've got a walkout basement. And I took one look at what was going on and immediately knew what it was. And I'm not all that smart, but I've had a previous house that had the same issue. The downspouts were draining right up against the foundation. And so when you had a big water event, all the water from the roof would come down the gutters and drain into the basement. And it wasn't a problem most times, but if you had a really heavy rain, that's what would happen. So first thing we did when we moved here, I hired a buddy that's got a backhoe. His name is Doug the backhoe guy, who came out and dug out trenches and put drain tile in underneath this area right where I'm standing. And I've got several gutters along this house, and he put drain tile to drain it away from the house out where it went to an area that sloped down out west of our house here. Well, I came in after he was done. He left it, you know, like backhoe guys do, a little rough. It was pretty good, but it was a little rough. And so we had a compost pile, and I had some compost back there, so I spread compost out everywhere here, and then threw some grass seed down that was kind of old. And what I got growing, this happened like in the spring. Every time I've ever seeded grass in the spring, I've never had good luck. I got all of the weed seed from the compost, and it was just old junk. I don't know what the plants were that would grow in a barn lot, and they came up everywhere, and I have never fixed it. And that was, we've been here since 2010. So every year, I think I'm going to work this backyard up and get rid of this crabgrass that grows here, which is what all of this is, and put in a decent yard. And the time to seed cool season grasses, which is what we raise across the Midwest. If you live in Texas, you raise something different, or in the area like that. But if you're in Tennessee and Kentucky or Virginia or those areas, you probably raise cool season grasses. And the time to seed cool season grasses is right now in the fall, in September, October. And what happens with cool season grasses, they grow in the fall, and then they go dormant when it's really cold in the winter, and then they come back in the spring and grow again, and then in the hot summer they go dormant again. So you've got two real growing seasons. Well, if you plant in the spring, you'll get a nice stand of grass, and then when it gets really hot, it'll go dormant, and then the weeds come. And so you end up with a field of weeds most of the time, unless you're really lucky. If you seed now in the fall, and as I record this, it's October, early October, the grass will grow up and get established and then go dormant in the winter and then come up again in the spring and kind of choke out the weeds. So I think if I get this seeded right now and get this worked up, I'll have a good stand of grass. So that's what we're doing today. And what I'm going to do, I'm going to take a box blade and work this area up, and I'm going to work up what soil I've got. And I live in the Missouri Ozarks. We don't have a lot of topsoil. It's pretty rough ground here, and it's hilly, and a lot of the soil, the glacial till was not kind to us. We don't have deep topsoil like a lot of you have. But I'm going to work up and try to get what we've got up to the surface. And this crabgrass is getting ready to go dormant anyway, so working it up is going to take it out for the time being. Now there'll still be crabgrass seed down here that can come up next summer, but hopefully we'll get a good enough stand of grass before it does. It'll choke it out. But I'm going to work up this big area here, and as I'm doing that, it's going to smooth it down and try to get the soil worked up where we can get good seed soil contact. What I did with the box blade, I put the ripper teeth on, and I angled it forward just a little bit, so the ripper teeth cut in a little deeper going forward, and going backward they didn't. And that worked out good. If you're going to do something like this, make sure you don't have any buried power lines or propane lines. I have like I said before, we dug this out. The reason we have to spread grass here is we dug it out to put drain tile underneath it, and I was a little bit nervous right in here about getting into the drain tile, but it's deep enough I didn't touch it. So we're good on all that. But if you don't know where your power lines are, your propane line, best to call Dig Right before you dig, and make sure you don't hit anything. Well, here's the finished product a day later. I got all the dead crabgrass kind of spread out, and we'll use it for mulch. You can kind of see I've got an island in the middle where I had some good grass. I kept that there. And then I just worked up in kind of it looks like a little racetrack around the outside. Well, I'm going to put the seed in my handy dandy 50-year-old cyclone cedar, which is about to dissolve, and I've got a ice cream container with nothing in the bottom to keep the get the seed where I want it. I've got a turf type fescue with some bluegrass mixed in and some ryegrass. And that'll give me a nice turf. Well, here's the finished product. I put the grass seed down and scattered some waste hay on top of it. If I'd have been thinking, I'd have put one of my old COVID masks on. I'm going to be blowing black boogers tomorrow because it's dusty out here. But I put a really thin layer of waste hay on top of it. I've seeded grass where I covered it with a layer of either straw or waste hay. Straw is probably better because there wouldn't be any hay seed in it. But I've had better luck when I cover it with just a really thin layer, and there's not much there because you don't want to mulch it of waste hay. But that's the finished product. Well, all I've got to do now is string out a hose and get the sprinkler running on this, keep it moist until we get the germination done. As soon as this project is done and I've got grass growing here, I'll post a link right here. If it's not there right now, either I'm too embarrassed about the results or it's not time yet to show you the grass that's growing. But I think I'll have a good stand of grass. Thanks for watching.